Hi there, this is Shauna from the Foil Fox. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am going to be showing you how to make this really cute kind of country holiday card. It uses the Farm Fresh pumpkins, which came out in the fall because it has this truck in there, and I just love the accessories for that. We're not going to use the pumpkins, we're just going to make it more Christmassy. And then it has the matching die set, and we're going to be using for the pieces of the truck only. And then there was this snowy truck accessories that came out last year that has a wreath and has some trees and some gifts in there. It's perfect for really adding some fun to our project. And so it also has a matching die set. Now I use these trees from Prancers. It's a penny black stamp that I've used forever, but there are trees in this snowy truck accessory if you want to use it. But see how these have the three trees, see three sizes? I use them all the time, love them. There's a new one that's called Scenic Layers that if you like these trees better, that's a penny black, you can use those. Just whatever tree you really like. And then this buffalo plaid stencil from Paper Tray Ink. And then if you want a little bit bigger gifts, and you'll see the chance to see the ones for the snowy truck and then from the ones from the festive mailbox, they do have larger Stampin' Dies for larger gifts and bows. So see, this one has the gifts. Also, they're a little bit smaller, and these are a little bit larger. You can use that as well if you'd like. For the papers, I'm using a card base that has been folded. When folded, it is 4.5 by 5 3/4, and the red peppermint red fits right on top. And then I have a piece of Bristol paper that's 4 by 5 1/4. And then I have another piece of Bristol paper. See, we want it to fit just perfectly, so we have a nice border. And then I have some more Bristol paper. I'm going to take out the stencil. There's 4 pieces to the stencil. I'm only going to use one. They have a larger squares or smaller. I'm using the smaller. And I'm going to just kind of offset this because I want to make sure I have those little stripies going in the right place. And in fact, this piece, I showed you how it fit perfectly on the card base. This piece I'm actually using is oversized, so I can trim it. That way you can trim it to how you want all those little vertical lines to line up for your card. And I'm just measuring, making sure that I'm going to have a little bit of a border there with those lines. That's what I'm trying to create, because that's all you're really going to see of it is that little border, and I want to make sure they come out right. So you can see I have this kind of positioned half with a half of the um, on the side, and on the top it's only about halfway through that square. This is gouache that I just squeezed out on my work surface. You can use acrylic paint, works well for this too. And I have a flat brush that I'm making this very, very dry, my paint, because if you have it too wet, it bleeds underneath your stencil. So I'm making it very, very dry, and but want it to go on. Now, if you could use ink, but when I tried the ink, it didn't go on bright enough. So this worked out very well. You don't need to do the center of this if you don't want, because we're only going to have the sides. Um, but that's up to you. And you can see I have to move it over, but it's really easy to line up because you just line up those diagonal lines, and then just continue on. And I'm just adding the ink just like I did, and I'm going to do the same thing down here, where I'm going to just line it up with those horizontal lines, or diagonal. I always say that wrong. They're diagonal. And just painting those on. And then I actually ultimately ended up doing all the squares in the center too, but you don't need to. You can do them just on the side. but because I didn't know how much I was going to be trimming off or where I was going to be trimming off, I decided to do it all. So this will give me the chance to line up my paper just right and get those diagonal lines going just the way I would like them. So I trimmed it up. There it is, all trimmed. And you can see there's some imperfections in it, but they're going to be covered up. And it's going to go right. I trimmed it up for my card base, remember, which was 4.5 by 5 3/4. And I didn't get that quite right, so I'm going to reposition it. And we're going to set that aside for now. Now we have this Bristol panel, and I'm going to start out by using just one of the trees from this set, Prancer. This is a piece of copy paper that I am just tearing. I love how copy paper tears so easily and makes this really nice snow bank. And I'm going to use that as my mask. You could actually use masking paper, of course, but I just use a piece of copy paper because with that magnet, it's not going anywhere. By the way, in my Misty, I do have a waffle flower grip mat in there too that really helps with having the paper stay in place. So I can use minimal magnets. And so now I'm using Faded Jeans Distress Ink and a blending brush. And I'm just blending along, and I'm using more ink down along the snowbank. And we're just going to take a peek, and we're going to continue on. This is where the tree is going to go. And so I'm just positioning that. I have peeled paint and forest moss. I'm going to start out with peeled paint and then add just little smatterings of forest moss. These are all distress inks. And again, you can use whatever inks you would like. I find these work really well for me. So I have a tendency to go use them over and over for doing trees. Now I'm going to reposition my tree. I'm using the same tree. As you notice that in that stamp set there was 3 different trees, different sizes. You could do that, but this one for this purpose, I'm just positioning them so one looks shorter than the other, and it seems to work out really well. Because really the star of the show of this card is that wonderful truck filled with our tree that we just cut down, and our gifts. So this is just going to be for our backdrop. And there we have this, our trees in the background. I'm going to take that off. You can see how well that sticks on my grip mat. Now I have another piece of Bristol paper, and we're going to cut out and then stamp all these pieces. Now, as you know, this was for the Farm Fresh pumpkins. Don't need all of that stuff, just the parts for the truck. So I'm going to just take out the dies that I use for the truck, which is the license plate there, and then the truck pieces. You can see them all lined up. And then for the snowy truck accessory set, I'm using the tree, the gifts, and the wreath and the bow. So I'm going to cut those out too. Now I have them all cut out. I have them arranged on the door of my Misty, all lined up, and you see that I have 2 pieces of colored paper. There is a stamp where you can stamp the gifts, but I am just taking kind of an easier approach and cut out some colored paper, and then I will stamp some decoration on those squares are the gifts, and I will decorate them a little bit later. But for now, I'm using again that peeled paint and forest moss for my wreath and my tree. And I'm going to bring in also Rustic Wilderness. I really like this green a lot, and so I'm adding that in just to give it a little bit more lively, bright color to it. Now these pieces keep coming out, so at some point I'm going to just give up. But I'm going to take the tree out. Now this, because we're done with that, I'm going to wipe off my pieces there, but this wreath, is another piece that goes over the top, and it defines the leaves. And so we have to get that all positioned right. And then I'm going to use forest moss for this, and I'm just going to wipe off all the other pieces again so I don't get them with green ink. And so now we have all of the definition of the leaves. Now there's this little piece that has these little berries. Now there's also a die. You can cut out the die and do these berries, but I'm just going to stamp the berries right on top using this lumberjack plaid and be done with it. I'm going to use the lumberjack plaid for the truck because I'm having the traditional red truck and because it's so festive. And this went on a little blotchy, but I'm just going to stamp it, continue to stamp it until it kind of smooths itself out. Now, I want to define some of the edges. So this is aged mahogany, and I'm just going over the edges just to give it kind of a little bit more aged look. No pun intended. And just stamp those edges. It gives it a little more definition. Then we're going to go back over for the lumberjack plaid again, just to give it again a really nice red. And I think that now I think we actually got it. Now it has this piece that fits over for the tailgate. Now you notice that there is those ribs kind of in the bed of the truck. I'm not going to care about those because it's going to be covered over with the tailgate. And then there's that definition piece, and this is where your truck really truly becomes a truck. And I'm using aged mahogany here, and you can see how it just adds that definition. Not going to worry about those ribs. But for the taillights, again, there is a stamp for this. I take the cheater's way out because these are they're kind of fiddly for me. And so I just avoid that, and I just used a yellow alcohol marker and a red that will be for my tail lights. And you know, there is a stamp for the glass in the back, but again, I'm just going to make it easy on myself. I think this is like a BG quadruple zero. There is a piece though that kind of gives the reflection for the glass, and I am going to use that, and that I'm going to use evergreen bough, and I'm going to just stamp that, and we're going to see now. You see the reflection in the glass. So our truck is done and our tailgate is done. We're going to move on to our other pieces. This is our bumper. We have our little wheels. We have our license plate. But for the bumper, I'm going to use pumice stone. And for the license plate, I'm just going to just to give it a little bit of definition, I'm going to use lost shadow just to give it a very light bit of the of gray on it, just to give it a background. And we're done with those. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do with the license plate. This is the bow, and we have the mirrors. Now, only one mirror is going to show, but I will stamp both of them. I'm going to use some black ink. I use just true black, but you can use any black that you like. This is from Paper Tray, and just stamped those mirrors. And for the tires, I'm going to use the same black. Now, I got this kind of mismatched. I didn't get it straight on there. I didn't get on there straight, I should say. And I'm going to fix that just with the Copic marker. I'm going to just fill it in because, again, it's a small point and you won't even notice it. And then for the bow, I'm going to be using a red, whatever red that you like. Now I've got on just a little acrylic block. This is a stamp that comes with the snowy truck accessories for the gifts, and that was Worn lipstick that I used, and now I'm going to use Evergreen Bough again, and I'm just adding a little definition to my little presents there. They still need bows, and in the end I used the same bow as I did for the wreath, just trimmed them back, but you'll see that a little later. Now we're just going to kind of arrange these, and you see I have the little foam squares off to the right. I'm going to stick foam on these pieces, but for right now I'm just kind of getting an idea of how this is all going to come together. And you see my license plate there. I went ahead and just used a pen and put peace and some little red lines in there. I just did that by hand because the license plate, you remember this truck was for fall, and so it has a fall one, and so I'm not going to use that obviously. So I just changed it to Peace Joy would work really well. Now I'm using my same little mask, paper mask that I had before, and I'm just going to hold it up just to give a little bit more definition to my snow and darken it a little bit. And I'm going to add some later on to the bottom where the truck is. But for right now, I'm going to do the sentiment. This sentiment is from Joyful Florals. You again, whatever sentiment you like and you have around. I just like this one. I like the font of it, and it fit perfectly in that spot. And I'm just using a really nice dark red. That was a pink fresh red. Now my trusty Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white, my favorite for snow or for lots of things. And I covered over my sentiment so I didn't get it all blotchy there, but I will continue on. And you can really control it. I just loosen it slightly with water, but not too much. I don't want it too loose. Just adding that snowy bits, and I'll just add in, I had a little mark there. That this is great for covering up little imperfections, and so I just added a little bit of snow, and that now this is all dry. Remember, I waited for it to dry, and I brought back our card base with our background, and I'm just mounting that on. Now we have our truck. We know how this is all going to go together. And remember, I put the foam on it. I'm going to just use a little stripe of glue that goes down at the bottom, and then I do have foam at the top only because I want it to look like it's, well, first of all, I need the room for my tree, but I want it to look like it's kind of bulging there. And see how my bows, these are the same bows that I used for the wreath. I just stamped them, cut them, and then stamped them in a different color, and then trimmed them off. But you'll see in a minute how I used the festive mailbox gifts, and you can decide which one that you want to use. Now I'm going to put the bumper on. And I have a little mirror. I don't have to do the other mirror because it's, unless you really want it there, but you won't be able to see it. And then I have my little tires, and I have the license plate. But before I put my tires, I have them sitting there. They do have foam on them, but I'm just kind of getting a position of where they're at. And then I'm going to put them just temporarily up on the bumper because I want to add a little bit of a, where you see the snow where the tires are sitting, give a little bit of shadow to that. And so I wanted to know exactly where the tires are so that I can add the shadow. And I just move this around. So I use this so that I only get just that ink where I want it. That really helps that mask. Like I say, it's just copy paper, and it's great for just moving around and getting it where you just exactly where you want it. There. Now I think we have a little bit more of a shadow. Now I can put my tires in place, and I can put my license plate, which already has a little bit of stickum on there, and I will just stick that in place, and our card will be finished. And I just had so much fun with this because it just gives a kind of a country, but just a fun, light but festive um, greeting to someone. And here you can see this card I did a little bit earlier, exactly the same, except for the gifts. These gifts came from the festive mailbox from Paper Tray, and they have the bigger bows and the bigger gifts. So if you want to use that, that's a good place that where you can get them. I will put it in the supply list just in case you want to use it, but you don't need to if you don't want to. But I had so much fun doing this. I hope you really enjoyed the project. I certainly did. Um, the truck was a whole lot of fun to repurpose your stamps from fall and transforming it into a holiday card. So just as a review, I used Paper Tray Ink Farm Fresh Pumpkins, the Stamp and Die, the Snowy Truck accessories, and then the Prancers is where, that's a penny black where I used from the trees. I didn't put down joyful florals. I should have, but that was for where I got my sentiment. And then a complete supply list is in the link down below. You can click that and you can go to all of that. You can also click the link to go and check out some more close-ups if you would like. And there's Oodles More inspiration as well. I want to thank you so much for joining me. And of course, if you haven't, we'd love it if you subscribe. And then we will see you next time. Thanks again. Bye.